Okay, should we start over again?
No, like storytelling.
Yeah.
Honor the story.
Honor the story, inspired by you saying honor the story.
I get it.
Okay, good. Wow, this is like really bad lighting here, though. All right, you ready now?
Ready.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Deanna Mulhern.
And I'm Christopher Balzano.
Welcome to episode 108, Tripping on Legends.
Your Campfire in the Crossroads. Excellent, we got that done. This is Deanna's first episode with our new subtitle. So I had to give her a little tutorial on it because I'm not quite sure that Deanna, despite being my co-host, and my fairly permanent co-host, you are in the pictures, you are in the official branding of this. I'm not sure you follow me on social media as much as you should.
I do follow you.
You do follow me on social media?
I do.
How do you get in touch with us via social media on the show? If you're looking to communicate, if you're looking
Instagram.
to let me finish my sentence. If you're looking to communicate with Tripping on Legends, how do you do so when you're online? Instagram,
Spooky Tripping.
Excellent.
And Facebook, where we dump everything.
You're still saying that. That's cute. Go ahead.
Facebook.com/Tripping
Facebook.com/
on Legends.
Tripping on Legends. Excellent. And of course, Twitter, which is still out there, is at Spooky Balzano. You can also follow us on TikTok under...
I didn't know this.
You didn't know this? Are you on TikTok?
No.
No, so that's probably why you didn't know, but everyone else can follow us on TikTok at Spooky Tripping. I'm sorry, at Tripping on Legends. Sorry, the TikTok is still fairly new. I've been making some videos, and of course we have, by the time you see this, we'll have several of our 1 minute myths out for you to enjoy. So it's really good because you get to go in, you get to see a quick myth, you get to experience it, and then you move on with your day, and hopefully those spooky stories will be in the back of your head and freak you out. Yes. Have a few other things to announce. If you're not following us on only those social media platforms, the book is coming out. The new book is coming out June 6th. Have you ordered your advance copy?
Of course.
Okay, you're totally lying right now. Well, you needed to ask me an hour ago the name of the book.
I just type in Christopher Balzano.
You want to follow us on our social media because in addition to the book coming out June 6th, I now have an event, a launch event, scheduled for pretty much every weekend in June. And a lot of these events are going to be the kind where we're going to be showing a movie that has to do with the Ocala National Forest. Movies like Legend,
Yearling?
Creature from the Black Lagoon. I don't think we're actually going to show the Yearling because the Yearling is really boring.
Oh.
It's notoriously boring. But the Yearling Trail is part of it. Different movies that have to do with it, maybe even the Blair Witch because of the connection to the Swamp Witch and things like that. Showing movies, launching the book, giving away free copies, free games. I've got 3 that are scheduled right now in June, consecutive weeks after the book is released. And then, of course, on June
6th.
You have that piece of paper. On June 4th, of course, we have the Southwest Florida Skunk Ape Convention, which is going to be in Punta Gorda. So if you are into that kind of thing or you just want to see some spooky legends, which I will be talking about as well, I will be a speaker there. Dave Sheely will also be there. He's the person who runs the Skunk Ape Museum, which I think is in...
is it Naples? It's on 41.
It's on 41. What's the next town that's over? Everglades City. I think it's in Everglades City. But you could definitely look him up. You've been there? Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy it?
I do.
Yeah? And now I know you're not... I don't think you're even that much into Bigfoot and stuff like that, but you still found it enjoyable.
I love Skunk Ape.
Cool. All right. Also, Stacey Brown's going to be there. RPG from Finding Bigfoot. Obviously, the people from Outcast Paranormal who are kind of running it. Robert Robinson, Thomas Sinclair, Connor Flynn, Patrick Webb, and Mark Muncy. In addition to Christopher Lee Balzano himself. But you will not be there for that one. Unfortunately, you have pressing matters in Massachusetts Paranormal Crossroads territory.
Yes.
This is really cool, right? I was doing research on this last week. This guy, RPG, who does Finding Bigfoot, he communicates with Bigfoot telepathically.
No way.
Yes. That's how he approaches Bigfoot and cryptid investigations. He actually communicates with them with his mind, which I think is crazy and really interesting. I'm not huge into cryptids. We were just talking about it, and I was like, yeah, But these are all really, really interesting people that I enjoy spending time with. I've met most of them.
Yeah, I would love to talk to that guy.
Obviously, I want to meet Dave Shealy because he seems like a really cool guy, and he's so close. And the Skunk Ape Museum is so close that I really want to meet with him, talk with him, see his ideas. So that's going to be happening June 4th. And
where is it?
It's in Punta Gorda.
Okay.
Do you know where that is, Punta Gorda?
North.
Literally one town away from where we are right now.
Oh.
Like 5 minutes that way. Charlotte County? No?
That's where the bookstore is?
No. I've got a good story about the bookstore. Actually, can I share it with the audience?
Where is the bookstore?
The bookstore is in... It says that it's in Punta Gorda.
Right.
But it's not in Punta Gorda. It is
Oh.
in... Do you remember when we were driving down and the names changed and we were like, what is this town?
Yeah.
And it was like Benson, Florida or something like that. It was
Yes,
some really
yes,
weird
yes,
abstract name that we had no idea. A friend of mine was going there with her daughter last week, and she's like, I'm like, that's the story. And I tried to get her to go to Arcadia. I think she ended up going to Arcadia. But you know what I just figured out from that? So if you've never listened to the episode, Mr. Coker doesn't live here anymore, right? Mm-hmm. That's the episode we did, which I think is like 63 or something like that. Mm-hmm. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's a really good episode. You want to listen to it. Coker is kind of blown up because I did it for WGCU. Like I did it for the public radio, and it became very popular. So I keep getting emails, can you give me directions, stuff like that. But what Deanna did when we went there was she read this book from Rise of the Guardians that we had bought in the bookstore.
Sandman.
Right, and do you know who one of the main characters of Rise of the Guardians is?
That we read in the book?
No, he's not. And I don't think he was in that book, but do you know who one of the main characters of Rise of the Guardians is?
I don't know, there's a bunch of them.
Sandman.
Oh.
We were watching it. If you've never seen Rise of the Guardians, and I've never seen it all the way through until the other night, Elle and I decided to turn it on during dinner, and then like our little after dinner just kind of hanging out thing. And I was like, I forgot, man, this is a really good movie.
Well, and you're the one that told me it had all these books to go
All
with.
these books. It's got young adult books.
Books
It's
are
got
very
pop-up
important.
books. It's got the mid-range books like that you had.
Picture books.
But one of the picture books, but one of the main characters is Sandman.
Yeah.
And I didn't even make the connection
To the
until
bookstore.
I was like, oh, wait a minute. The name of the bookstore is Sandman. If you've never been in at Sandman, I wish someone here has
it's a
been.
great
I'm sure someone
bookstore.
can look it up. If you look it up, it says Punta Gorda, but if you look at the directions, like if you GPS it, it's not Punta Gorda.
Well,
it's
'cause
some
it moved?
random.
Because it moved?
No, it's just.
It did
I
move.
think it's in one of those unincorporated areas.
Oh, Florida.
So it's like
Like a
it's
ghost-
Punta
ghost
Gorda,
town?
right? It's like you know how there's parts like you might call Naples and just Naples,
Right, but
or I
it's
might call
Golden
Naples just
Gate or
Naples, but
City
it's
Naples,
but it's
yeah.
actually Golden Gate or something like that.
Yes.
But it's just one more of those hashtag follow the signs moments where I was like, oh my god, we went to Sandman to get a book about Rise of the Guardians, which also had the moon stuff in it. If you've never seen that episode. Or listen to it, you need to go watch it or go listen to it. And of course, you can watch it on our social medias, but you can also listen to it wherever you get podcasts. And if you are listening to this for the first time, or if you haven't yet, you should subscribe to our podcast. Mm-hmm. Download every episode. Most of them you can get either a video or an audio option. Rate it. Let us know what you think about
They're the
what we're doing.
perfect bedtime stories.
They put you to sleep.
Not always. Sometimes they're so spooky.
Oh, that's good. Those are the ones that you're on. Even you fall asleep even on the ones that you are participating in. There's always a story about how an episode gets like sparked, right? And
You had a dream about your middle school dance and they were singing Stairway to Heaven?
no, they
That's what I
weren't.
thought about.
No, actually, we didn't. First of all, I went to junior high. I'm so old. I went to junior high, not middle school.
I went to junior high.
I don't think that our last song, and now in high school, yes, 100% Stairway to Heaven. I don't think in my junior high,
Ours
the
was.
last song we listened
We had
to,
first church dances.
and we only had 2 dances the entire time I was there, and both of them were graduation dances. It might have been Stairway to Heaven. I think it was because I was, just as a side note, there was this, my 7th grade year, I went with an 8th grader.
Ooh.
Whose name was Vicky. Well, let's call her Vicky
Hi,
for
Vicky.
now, because I'm sure she's not following because I friend requested her and she never responds. I was loop de loop over Vicky, and I remember we got to dance for Stairway to Heaven.
Wow.
And it was like amazing because I got to spend that much time with her, and Yeah, I'm not gonna say
everyone doesn't know that song is 7 minutes, 9 minutes.
It is, and actually, the interesting thing is, if you start that song when you leave my driveway, it takes exactly Stairway to Heaven to get from my house to my ex-wife's house. Like when we used to transfer the kids and stuff like that. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy that you know that.
I recently had a memory pop up where I posted that. You're kind of similar. You're kind of connected. I was, in the early days of Tripping on Legends, we had gone to breakfast. And not you and I, obviously. We had gone to breakfast, and we were going to be tripping, probably one of our most popular pages at least, on the website, trippingonlegends.com, is about the Devil's Tree, right, in Port St. Lucie. Mm-hmm. And we were eating, and then randomly, and I'm pretty sure this video came up like today or like yesterday. So once again, hashtag follow the signs. Stairway to Heaven came on. And at that time, to be at a restaurant and like to have them tune to a radio station that would play Stairway to Heaven and then to like hear Stairway to Heaven,
right?
It was totally crazy. And so we ended up going to the Devil's Tree. So do you know much about the Devil's Tree?
No.
No? So it's whenever they list haunted places in Florida, they always talk about the Devil's Tree, and I think it's worth talking just for a little bit. So the Devil's Tree is the site where now recently Wikipedia got this straight. Wikipedia changed what they wrote.
Did you contribute?
I do not contribute because that's a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down. But it involves Gerard Schaefer.
Okay.
So, do you know who Gerard Schaefer is?
Of course.
Okay, I was just wondering. So, Gerard Schaefer, if you don't know, if you're just listening to this show for like the very first time, so you haven't heard anything about him out of us, he's a serial killer from Florida. He's Florida's probably most prolific serial killer of people that were killed in Florida. It ranges anywhere between 10 to 30 to over 100 people that he killed. He's convicted of killing 2 people. So he's only convicted of killing 2, but he is kind of like definitely proven for a few other ones, at least 4 other ones, and then he's suspected in all these other ones. But he would often talk and say that he did this, he did this, he did this. Mm-hmm. He's the inspiration for Ted Bundy to start killing 2 people, like to start killing women in pairs of 2s. In 1973, he was convicted of killing Susan Place and Georgia Jessup. Those were both teenagers. He killed them on Hutchinson Island. This is what Wikipedia and other sites often get wrong. Essentially what he had done was that he had, a few years before, kidnapped these two teenagers. He was a cop. He was a Martin County deputy. He picked these 2 girls up. He hung them from a tree, right? And then he got a call, and so he had to take off, right? So he takes off, he comes back, they're gone. He goes back to the police station. He's like, I really messed up. They're like, yeah, we know, they've already reported it. And he was arrested and then kind of like out on bail for doing that, for having done that, right? So he hadn't gone for trial that yet. And while he was out, he ended up killing these other 2 women, Susan and Georgia, and he did it in like the exact same way. So it ended up, he did it on Hutchinson Island. So now what a lot of people say is that he did that in Port St. Lucie, at Okemic Park, where the Devil's Tree is.
Okay. Why did they say that?
That is because they mix it up. They mix up the names. Because it's a serial killer. Like, who cares about the victims? You only care about the crime, right? And the criminal. No. While he was out, while he was out on parole, I think he's the one, these are the ones he did when he was on parole. He abducted and killed Barbara Wilcox and Colette Goodnow, right? Mm-hmm. He dumped their bodies in Okemic Park at about 50 to 100 meters away from where the Devil's Tree is. Okay. Because he had a history of A, hanging his victims, and B, this is kind of creepy, visiting the bodies afterwards. If you know what I mean. Visiting the bodies afterwards. people assumed not only that he killed them at the Devil's Tree and hung them there, but that they were buried underneath the Devil's Tree. They were found hanging from the Devil's Tree, none of which is proven. So no one knows whether Schaefer actually killed them at the Devil's Tree, but the urban legend of it is that he did.
Right.
Right? And he was never convicted of those crimes before he was killed in prison. However, and here's the weird thing, like, he admitted to a lot, and he would say he did this, or he would brag that he did this, oh no, I was involved in this, yet he would never admit to those murders. But they were so identical, not only were they identical, but they actually found things of those girls in his apartment. I shouldn't say is in his apartment, because that's important. They found when they conducted a search, they found materials connected to those two girls and connected to all these other people, which is why they say the number could be as high as 30, even more than that. However, the Devil's Tree pretty much had a reputation before that.
Okay.
So it is this indestructible tree that looks like it was born out of hell. If you've ever seen any of the pictures of this, like, when we went there, we went and we were looking for it, and we were in the wrong place completely. We were in a different place. We were, like, right next to it, searching for it. Is that it? Could that be it? Could that be it?
But then when you saw it?
As soon as we saw it, we were like, oh, like, yeah, that's pure, that tree is pure evil.
So you think because the way it looks is why the stories come out?
Well,
or
the other legends that have risen up around it are that it's indestructible. So people have tried to cut it down and had the saws become destroyed, right? They've tried to burn it.
What
if
kind
you
of
look
tree
at
is
it,
it?
it's an oak.
Okay.
And it's like all mangled. It looks like, as a matter of fact, we got one of the most interesting EVPs we got, where we were looking at it and we were commenting on the branches, and we got this really creepy voice that goes, "They go down," like that. It's this really, really creepy EVP. But it looks like, I mean, it's all mangled. It looks mangled. There are burn marks where they've tried to burn it down. The branches. We were literally talking about, like, hey, look at those branches. They go down.
Wow.
And it's so clear, and it's like a really, if we were evidence people, we would call it what do you call it? A number one. I can't remember what they say anymore. No, it's no, they call it you would call it a Class A EVP. Like, it's that clear exactly
but we're not
how
evidence people.
We're not. That's evident. So it's this considered one of the most haunted places. People who go there see these dark shadows that, like, kind of fly around the trees. It's been thought to be the source of rituals, like satanic rituals. People see men who are in cloaks there at night, like, walking around, sometimes holding torches. When we went there,
it's just in a forest.
Yeah, so it's a huge forest. I shouldn't say huge. It's a park. So it's not like even like a forest. It's a park, and
it's not a cemetery or anything.
Nope, not at all. And there's a canal right next to it, which supposedly he like sailed up with the bodies on the canal. Although once again, there's no proof of this. These are all kind of like urban legend parts of it. Huge playground, basketball courts, and then there's like one part of it that's like all these paths and walking paths and stuff like that, and then the other ones are once again walking paths.
Are there other
the Devil's Tree. There are, but not like this.
Okay.
Like I'm saying, when we went there, we kept going, that could be it, because that's an oak. And and then when you actually see it, it's massive. And it's, like I said, mangled is the best way that you can describe it.
I want to see this tree.
Or you could have just looked on our social media. So we went there, and like I said, we were, we saw evidence of cult activity while we were there. We saw different like circles, we saw bird feathers. It's pretty much like this idea that like there is something off about this place. Add to that the rumors, the dark shadows people see.
Hey, when your picture comes up, look.
Oh wow!
When I type it in,
that's crazy.
Up.
That's crazy. And the one thing you're not supposed to do, which you see us doing in that picture, sure, is we took bark from the Devil's Tree. And we took it with us, and our car ended up kind of breaking down and stuff like that. You need to listen to the episode if you haven't listened to it, or go to the website and search it. That's crazy. You search in Devil's Tree and we come up first? That's crazy.
Not first, but
on the first page.
Yeah, on the first page.
That's actually really insane.
pretty cool.
When we got there, just to back up on the story a little bit, we were looking for the Devil's Tree, right? And we were in that one place. We were lost. And
It doesn't really look that
it wasn't lost, right? It was more of just like we were in the wrong place. We were looking in the wrong place. And so we come out and we're like, none of that stuff seemed like all that intimidating. Didn't look like any of the pictures we had seen online. And so we're kind of discouraged. And we're like, okay, well, let's check this other part. And this little kid, I think he was like 12 years old. His name was Christopher. And he says, hey, he's in the playground. He goes, hey, you guys looking for the Devil's Tree? Like, that's how well known this is that this guy saw these two weirdos creeping around and we're like, I know what you're looking for, the Devil's Tree. He brought us back there. He showed us where it was. We're just kind of doing it, and it's an amazing, because I have this all on tape. We're looking at it, or something like that, and he's like, hey, do you guys know about the Stairways to Heaven? It's like we had just friggin', like, that whole thing had just happened, heard the song in the restaurant, made a video live about it. We're like, no, what's that? And so he takes us a little bit further into the woods, past the Devil's Tree, and there is a staircase. There are these stairs.
Real stairs?
Real stairs.
Okay.
And they lead off into nowhere. Now, they're maybe 4 feet high. They're not crazy, crazy big, but like, what the hell are these? What is this?
Yeah.
And if you know the area, right? Like I said, it is a park, but it's kind of a wooded area, and there's nothing else there.
So there's no building.
Well, here's the thing. There were some foundations, things like that. So it obviously was a relic of some kind, but what was the building? So we spent months trying to figure it out, what this building was, where it was. One of the things that we had come upon, which then became part of the story, was that it might have been part of this Victory Forge Military Academy, which is now, it's called like the Southeast Military Academy. It is like the sketchiest military school of all time.
Why?
Right? The guy who founded it had to leave Ohio or Indiana because of sexual abuse charges. Right? He founds this school. I'm trying to give you a cursory kind of thing on this because all this I don't remember. I just remember it being. Then there were all these charges of like physical abuse there, abusing the cadets, and all this stuff. And they kept trying to close it down, but then people were like, "But what? It's not like a military academy. It's like these are the worst kids are sent there to be reformed. So it's more of like that kind of school. Yeah. So people are like, well, the kids probably deserved it. Like, unfortunately, that's the attitude. Yeah. Back then. I was trying to find out the name of it for tonight's episode. 2018, 2019, 2020, more charges up against them.
I thought you said it was gone.
No, it's still there. It's still there, and it's still running. I just thought the Victory Forge Military Academy might be the old site of it.
Oh, okay.
Because it was then expanded and stuff like that. I did some, as I was doing, which oddly enough we didn't do then. It's like it's miles away from it. So even though we thought at the time that it was right up against it, so it would make sense, right? So maybe that these were part of that military academy. I think it still lends itself to the idea that maybe this was tainted ground, like the Devil's Tree. I mean, we could spend an entire episode, but I don't want to do that because I've done Devil's Tree episodes, right? But this idea that the ground itself, the land itself, is tainted. And so I asked this kid, well, what is this, right? And we even tried to research the bricks. We found the company that made the bricks because they had this special symbol on it. And we talked to the brick company, tried to get purchase orders from when this might have been. We couldn't find it. I've tried once or twice to look at the Hall of Records in Port St. Lucie to see what might have been there before. I've tried to do it online because Port St. Lucie isn't right down the street. Never been able to find out what this is.
Did you go to the Historical Society?
I've contacted the Historical Society about it. They've never been able to tell us what is or what was in Okamic Park before it was Okamic Park. Okay. We found some records of sales and stuff like that. You can go to the website and get a lot more details on this. But what struck me, what hit me was the stairway to heaven. And that's how the kid referred to it, as a stairway to heaven. Now, he's 12. And he wasn't 12 like my son 12, who when he was 12 listening to Led Zeppelin, he was just your average, right?
Yeah.
He just knew that expression. And I was like, well, what is it? I said to him.
Okay.
And he said that it was Gerard Schaefer's house. And that's the story that went around town, and that everyone said was, this is where Gerard Schaefer lived.
Did he live in that town?
No, he did not. Okay, his wife. So that's what I was talking about when they executed the search warrants. They didn't execute a search warrant at his house because he didn't have a house like in there. Instead, the search warrants were for he and his wife's house. His wife's name was Teresa. He and his house's wife in Stewart.
Okay.
And then his mom's trailer, which him and his wife sometimes lived in Fort Lauderdale.
So on the East Coast.
So, yeah. Like, he's Martin County. Port St. Lucie's on the East Coast, too.
Oh, okay.
So he never lived there. He never lived in the woods in this random thing. Not to mention the fact that he was a member of society. So it's not like he was a cop, right? So he wasn't out there like a recluse, like a mountain man with who's like, oh, let me go kill some people. Like it was.
Well, it's easier to picture people like that.
Exactly. You see something.
Yeah.
Right? And you say something tragic is connected to something like only 100 feet away, less than 100 feet away. It must have been his.
Yeah.
And so people once again said they try to make sense of things. And so they said, if you go on these stairs, Gerard Schaefer, you'll hear his victim screaming, or that if you go there, he'll start talking to you, or you'll see his ghost there. All this stuff that's connected to this secondary area not often talked about in Okemuk Park, and where the Devil's Tree is. This other secondary location that some people who do what we do have kind of visited and explored, but it's actually as strong of an urban legend because it's factual that he didn't do anything there. And yet it's his house. It's where he lived. It's where he eats. It's even, he said, I also heard that's where he brought his victims. And so I was like, wow, like that's really crazy. And as I'm kind of processing some of this, which came up on social media or whatever lately, and there's been a lot of buzz about Port St. Lucie and the Devil's Tree lately, I came across this idea of stairs in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Right? And this is a thing, right? I asked people to...
This is a new concept for you?
It's...
In your career of...
Yes, I'm going to say yeah. Like, I mean, obviously we have those, and you hear... It's one of those things where... Which I guess is kind of almost like the essence of folklore. When someone says it, you go, I've heard that before.
Yeah, but you're so researched in most things.
But you know, like if someone says to you, there's this. We were talking about Gravity Hills last week. There's this place, and these little kids got hit by a train, and now they push the car past. You go, wait a minute, yeah, I've heard of that, or
legend?
right, like it's in the back of your mind, but you don't know where you heard. I can't ever remember anyone. Maybe it's a whole Mandela effect. I can't remember anyone ever really talking about this. But I heard it. So I got that Port St. Lucie. Then I heard. I think it might have been on One Strange Thing, or it was on some other podcast I was listening to, and I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, you know what? I actually know nothing about those. Is it really a thing? Right? So I started doing research about it.
But it didn't come up as a thing when you were at the Devil's Tree in the stairs?
No, not like
put
that.
It in the back of your head until years later?
Well, I think it's one of those things where it was like, that's crazy. That's right? And it was like, I didn't go, hey, I wonder if there are more of these, or like, this fits folklore theme motif like 23.85. Like,
you weren't ready.
It just was. Maybe not. Maybe it was like, I just had to put it in the back of my mind. But then when all this other stuff started coming up, I started researching these trees. And there are...
Stairs, you mean?
These, yes, sorry, stairs. There are two different varieties, right?
Listen.
I know you do. So the first is... You would think that the first one would be more common, but it's less common. So...
Spiral staircases?
People are walking through the woods... and they see abandoned stairs, right?
Any kind of stairs?
Any kind of stairs. So there are spiral staircases. There
Tall,
are
short.
tall, short. Though obviously the one at the Devil's Trees is not that tall, but they've got ones that seem to have, like, they go into the trees,
Okay.
right?
Like
As if it were a
treehouse?
3 or a 4-story
Treehouse?
building. Well, I don't.
No.
Well, I don't want to say no because they're not attached to a treehouse. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, there's not a structure.
Are they on a tree? Like go around a tree or
Uh-huh.
anything like that?
Yeah, oftentimes, like they are in the middle of trees. Let me talk about like, there's no structure attached to it, so there's no building there anymore. It's just these stairs. So obviously, just coming across that kind of freaky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're walking in the woods, and all of a sudden there's just these abandoned stairs, and sometimes they can go 3-4 stories or 3-4 like levels of a
Yeah,
building.
like how does that even survive?
It's
The
just
building coming down or
because
whatever.
they built shit better back then,
Wait, the rest
right?
of it's gone?
Because
I don't even see
there are
walls
these
or-
there are these two, and
or-
these trees for the most part, this first kind that I'm talking about, these are ones that people can say easily, like, the Devil's Tree kind of falls into this. There was a structure. There clearly was a structure here before. We don't know where, this, and here's the history of it. Here's the history of the structure, but the stairs never fell. Or, like, usually what happens is, for some reason or another, a fire claims most of it, or it's an abandoned settlement, or it's something like that,
So
but
are
they
the
can
stairs
trace
the
it back.
safest place to go?
Definitely not. For 2 reasons that I'll get to. Hold on to that question. Put it on a sticky note. So some of the famous ones. Now, these first ones that I'm talking about, they're stairs that are always there, right? Like, if you and I wanted to right now, we could go to Cambodia, and we could go to Mount Phlam Kuan Park,
Oh my gosh.
and we could go those stairs. Or
Scary.
we can go to the Etruscan pyramids of Bam Arza in Italy.
Balzano.
You've always wanted me to take you. Balzano. Or the ghostly staircases of Sweden. I love the name of this one. In the Philippines, the staircase of missing time.
Ooh.
Ooh. And then the staircase without a destination in Germany, which I'm sure all of these sound so much creepier in their own languages as well. Like, and these are ones that people have visited, and there are a few in the United States as well. In my list, I didn't see the Devil's Tree in it, probably because the stairs are kind of unimpressive. But if you can imagine, there are so many, and here's the weird thing. There are so many ghost towns in Florida. There's so many abandoned towns, and yet for some reason, there's no other reports of these. I'm not going to say phantom, because I can't say the word phantom, but there's not these creepy, mysterious trees in the middle of the woods. That's pretty disturbing, right?
Yes.
But, like, you can deal with that. It makes sense. There used to be a house here, or there used to be a building here, there used to be a hotel here, and it's not here anymore.
Right.
But the stairs still remain for one reason or another. However, there's a creepier version. And that's really much more our focus of the ones tonight. These are ones that disappear.
What do you mean disappear?
Exactly what I said. They are...
You see them and then you don't
You see them, and then you go out the next day, and they're not there.
Hmm.
Or they're in a different place. Or you've been going someplace your whole life, and then you go there one time, and then boom, all of a sudden there are these stairs there. So there's kind of an explanation version, and then there's also these stairs which are more mysterious. They're creepier. They seem to have more of a supernatural origin than these average, everyday, just abandoned building ones, right? People who GPS stuff, right? Like, remember when we were out with John and he like GPS's everything, so he knows where everything is. They'll GPS where they found these stairs, and they'll go back.
They won't be there.
They won't be there, right? Or they'll go back and they'll be in a different place, right? There'll be no trace. Now, here's the other interesting thing: is that these older ones, the ones we know of, like the ones that are there all the time, they've kind of meshed with the environment, right?
Right.
Like they've been taken
The
back.
trees or the moss. Or,
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you were saying, would you climb them? These are the kind of stairs you wouldn't climb because you don't know whether structurally they're sound, right?
Yeah.
And you can take a step, and all of a sudden your legs are going to be covered in spiders. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I meant if there was a fire, the building was falling down. These stairs are indestructible. You should go.
Indestructible. Yeah, like, you could live forever, for eternity on these stairs. These other stairs are not like that.
Okay.
They seem to be almost
Decrepit?
set apart from, no, the exact opposite. Set apart from the woods.
The ones that disappear.
Yeah. Like, they are untouched by the environment around them. They've been made of steel, stone, people have reported, wood.
And people have touched them?
And people have seen them. Some people have touched them. But it's like, they're separate. Like, if this is a stair, if these are stairs in the middle of the woods, they should have moss on them.
Right.
They should have poo-poo on them.
Right.
Excuse my language. They should have branches. This
Leaves,
second
anything.
version of stairs,
Dirt, bugs.
they're immaculate, right? Like, there's nothing on them. Some people have even said they glow. One of the people said, now you were asking me earlier, is there a difference between ladders and stairs, right?
Yes.
Off camera, she was like, I think sarcastically asking me if there's
No, it said sometimes they're ladders, and I'm like, what's the difference? Like, they both ascend.
They do, but ladders are meant to be a temporary thing, right?
Right.
Like, ladders depend on something else, unless you've got like one of these,
those other ladders,
right?
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
These ladders are single.
Wait, there's
rung.
invisible ladders too?
Yeah. There are these single rung ladders. So imagine you're going through the woods, you come across a ladder.
Just by itself?
By itself. It's
Not
near a
leaning
tree.
against anything?
It's near a tree, but it's not leaning. And it's not like one of these. It's not like one
Right.
that's got a support, like with the triangle or whatever. It's standing straight up like this, not leaning, standing straight up like this, going parallel to a tree.
Are there pictures of any of this?
We'll get to that. The weird thing is some of these are seen during and in connection with missing children cases. Right? So searchers are looking for missing children, or there's been a report of a missing child, and they find these staircases, but only temporarily. They disappear after that.
Okay.
They're seen near forest cemeteries. So, do you remember when we went to the Coyote Woman cemetery? Mm-hmm. How there was just like you're walking in the woods and all of a sudden there's a cemetery. Yeah. So not like these big cemeteries, but these little rural, right just slightly off the path in the woods cemeteries that are family cemeteries or old settlements with old headstones and stuff like that. They're often found near those. Okay. Right?
So stairways to heaven in a sense.
Stairways to heaven, right? So it leads to this idea that the kids are in another dimension, right? Like these might be some kind of portal. They might be like a version of a fairy ring or like a mushroom ring like we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago with the mushroom episode, where whether the kids stumble upon these portals or these staircases on their own, or they're taken and then taken up these stairs or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or the same kind of thing, like whether these stairs appear near cemeteries to help people ascend.
Now, have you looked into the Bible or religion and Stairway to Heaven? Like, is there some sort of biblical?
There is. When I was a child, I remember probably one of my most profound religious experiences was that episode of Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
Where, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Right? Where Tom has to take the escalator up to heaven.
The Tom and Jerry Bible.
And they send him back down.
Yes.
They send him back down, and he's got to get Jerry to sign the paper saying that he forgives him for all the times he tried to kill him. And, hey, come down here! And he's got, like, the devils down there and stuff like that. That's probably... I know it probably is nowadays.
Millions of us.
But it's this idea that, like, stairs do represent ascent. Yeah, right? Like, they represent I'm not sure if
No,
there's
but you
any
didn't answer the
directly in the
question.
Bible. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's any directly in the Bible, but there are these. I mean, there are, like, I know, what's his name? Is it Abraham who has to go up the stairs when he's killing his son?
Oh.
When he's supposed to sacrifice his son, and there's I don't know if it's Abraham or Jacob. I can't remember if Jacob might be the son
Jacob's
and Abraham's
ladder?
the father. That's where that concept comes from.
Yeah.
He had to rise up there, and he was supposed to sacrifice him. And at the last moment, the angel stops him and says, "No, you were willing to sacrifice your son to God, so you're good. You've proven yourself." But he had to climb up the stairs, right? And so throughout history, there are always these, whether it's the temple mounds like you have in Safety Harbor, or whether it's, think about most schools, right? Like the upper grades or the higher stairs, right? Like it's this idea that you're going up, that you are climbing something. And Brady Stark
it's like a journey up somewhere.
Right? And it's interesting because when we see stairs, and there's a long history, probably the most famous ghost picture of all time is the Brown Monk at an abbey in England, and it's this ghost coming down the stairs. It's like probably one of the most famous ghost pictures. We got a really good one of Elizabeth and Stetson, which is almost identical to the Brown Monk picture, but it's kind of like this figure coming down. Looking at it, and
But just you saying that, this whole like going up, coming down, like it's like.
Well, it's interesting. We never talk about them coming down, right? Like when we think of stairs, we always think of ascension, but not down. You know what I'm saying? Like, and these, of course, because we're at the ground level. For most of these, we're at the ground level. They seem to be going up into the heavens. So these stairways
or
to heaven,
coming down,
and yet this other really horrible stuff is associated with them, right? And so is it that it's going up or that it's going down? And could it be that we don't see the rest of these mystical ones that move? We don't see the down part, right? Like, could the down part be the ground? You know what I'm saying? Like something came and took them and brought them down. Either way, like there is this strong symbolism of movement, of ascension, of going from one level of something to another. Like I said, Brandy Stark actually commented, Dr. Stark commented on some of our stuff. And it's just, it's they move, right? Like
they move without moving,
right? And they're all
these ones do move.
These places where a lot of these, mysterious woods disappearances happen also have these staircases. Now, how did this kind of come into the public? Like I said, it's one of those things where it seems to be in the back of your mind. It seems to be like a common thing. Like, yeah, of course. Like I've heard that story before, but you really can't put your finger on it. There was this subreddit post by a guy named Search and Rescue, right? So he had this Search and Rescue Reddit. And the background on this is he was on forest search and rescue. I believe it was fire search and rescue too. And so he would do a lot of work in the woods. And a lot of this, almost all of this happens in the woods, right? Like these aren't like, all of a sudden there are trees in the palms, like here, or in the desert, you're just walking and there's stairs. Maybe that has to do with like, you can easily get lost or misidentify something in the forest and be like, oh, I thought this was where it was, or right, or like, and forest is a place where you could seem like you know where you're going, but you can't see the forest for the trees, right? So you walk a little bit further and you were like, wasn't I just here? Or things come up on you quicker, like they seem to pop out of nowhere. So maybe that's what they have to do.
Or it's a different realm altogether.
Or if it's, well, that's why there's so much like transportation things going here, right? So he found these stairs one day. And he kind of started talking about it, and the older guys were like, don't go on them, and don't talk about them. We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk
about stairs.
We don't talk about the stairs. But everyone knows about them, but don't talk about them. Right? Like, he's told this by the older people the first time he's like, and he's like, well, are these common? He's like, we don't know anyone who hasn't seen them, but we don't talk about them. Well, why don't we talk about them? I just said don't talk about them. And whatever you do, don't go on them. These seem to be, unlike the structure ones, these seem to be something bad will happen to you.
Wait, where is this?
I can't remember where he was. I want to say he was in Washington State, but I could be wrong about that.
But somewhere in America.
It was so yeah. He's an American. He was an American.
Okay.
And is an American, and so, you knocked me off. What was I just saying?
He said, "Don't go on
Oh,
the stairs. We don't
that,
talk about the
like,
stairs."
They seem to imply that bad things had happened to other people who had tried to walk these stairs, like who had tried to climb on the stairs. It was just leave them alone. We don't talk about them, but we all know you're not crazy. But never mention it again.
Okay.
Right? And so every once in a while he would try to like ask them, like, or get it from someone else. Then under the cover of this subreddit of search and rescue, he posted it to see whether other people had experiences, and tons of stuff came out.
Okay.
Right? Tons of stuff came in. People were responding that they had also experienced it, that and they gave descriptions of it, but also like they were also told not to talk about it as well. Right? I wonder if we have any of the posts that people gave of specific things that they encountered during this time.
Oh, right here?
Why we do.
Shall I read?
Please do.
Right here?
Yes, and read it in a really creepy voice.
No
Whoops,
pressure?
sorry. No pressure at all. Go ahead.
I came across a set in rural West Virginia. I don't think I was quite 40 miles deep, but at least 10 or better.
Hold on one second. That's the other thing, that they're never found like on the edge of the woods. They're always found deep into the woods, usually when someone's doing some kind of search and rescue, but also when they're handling forest fires that are far into the woods and stuff like
Okay.
that. Sorry.
Okay.
Loggers as well.
West Virginia, that seems like there could be some creepy woods there.
I think everything having to do with West Virginia, including Mothman, is creepy.
I thought maybe a house had once stood there, but there was no cellar or other debris that would indicate a home was there before. Just a set of stairs with a base that went up maybe one flight, 16 so steps if I remember right, and sturdy. Could barely shake 'em. I didn't climb up though, worried I might break or fall over, and I was all alone.
Dum dum
You want to
dum.
read this one?
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a different one, right?
Yeah.
An hour east of Ironwood, there's a clearing
This
in
is
the
from
forest.
Taylor Shamung. I can't read that from here.
Right here?
Shamalam. Yeah.
Oh, Taylor and Shazam
Okay.
says that they encountered their own set of stairs in Michigan. An hour east of Ironwood, there is a clearing in the forest that has stairs. I was hiking and exploring with my cousins, and we stumbled on a clearing about half a football field long. Had a few staircases, but not against trees, just standing in the open. They looked like stairs from a normal suburban home. Kind of old, though. The older cousin decided to investigate. He walked to the stairs to see how they were being held up. Couldn't find anything, which weirded him out. He made us all leave. Grass didn't grow near the stairs either. Okay.
That's another thing that happens is oftentimes they've got, just like we explored with the fairy rings, just like we explored with the mushroom rings, things tend to not grow around them.
Okay, this
Which
is-
once again adds to this idea of like, is there something going
Oh,
on?
this
Is
guy
there
took a
something
picture.
otherworldly?
It doesn't have the picture here, though. This is from Germany.
Yeah, I think all the have pictures. I just don't have the pictures there.
Oh. I saw some stairs in the woods a few years ago. Didn't know what to think of them and took a picture. They were covered in moss but had railing on one side.
That's it. That was like I was going, yeah, and then it was like, oh, that was it. So the theory for most of these is that they are old settlements, right? They are ghost town remnants in a certain place. We were looking at that cemetery, and that cemetery was far off the road, right? Like,
Yeah.
remember we had to like drive in his like smashed up truck, and
Yeah.
like we were dodging trees,
Yeah.
and then
You
we
gotta
had to get
go
out and still
in.
walk as
Yeah.
the ticks were latching onto us. And
Yes.
yeah, you got ticks. You sent me a picture of the ticks that were on you, that you got when we were there. You don't remember that? I'll find those pictures. And that was a settlement. There had been a settlement there at one time. So maybe we just underestimate where some of these settlements are, right? Like maybe we just don't. But here's the thing. There are records of Starktown or Starkville or whatever. Do you remember that it was named after Starklyville? Remember there was the
Yeah.
Starkly Cemetery?
Yeah.
There are records of Starkly Town or whatever it was in the records, right? Like, it's not like this is prehistoric. It's not like it's ancient. pretty much in America, no matter where you go, there's written records of things.
Right.
So to have a settlement and to have no one be able to, that's kind of like not really the best explanation.
Except for that one settlement.
For these ones that disappear, what, Roanoke?
Yeah.
Don't get me started on Roanoke.
Don't talk about Roanoke.
Don't talk about Roanoke. Because, much like Roanoke, the ongoing theory is that, like, there are portals that are attached to this, like we talked about. That these are somehow temporary, most of them temporary, gateways to other places, and it's kind of like this is the echo of it. Or, and this is where the devil, evilish part of it, that's temptation, right? Like that people are tempted to get on the stairs and to escape themselves.
Right.
Right? Because a lot of these people say, after they report these steps, they were mysteriously drawn to them. They knew they were coming upon them, right? But they didn't get what they were feeling until it happened.
But they wanted to take
like, you know what I'm saying?
journey.
Like, you know something's going to happen,
Yeah.
and then it happens, and you're like, oh, that's what I was feeling before.
Yeah, like you want to go through the door.
But then
up the stairs.
But then there's this conflicting thing, almost like an angel and a devil on your shoulders. The devil's saying, come up the stairs. And the angel's saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And they feel that actual conflict, and they decide not to. Right? And that's the majority of those kind of cases are like, you don't go on the stairs, did something. Just the same way you don't enter a fairy circle, you don't break it, you don't eat anything while you're on there. So that these might be somehow portals that are meant to tempt or something like that. The third theory, which I of course love with my background, is that these portals, these structures, these stairs, are actually altars. And so cults construct these altars and maybe move them because this is where they hold their ceremonies.
Oh.
Which would fit into the whole necromancy aspect of them being near a cemetery, but also would be connected to maybe they're the ones abducting the children. Like, it's kind of, it's one of those things that fits a little bit of this, fits a little bit of this. And then, which is like what they would do in Freetown State Forest, for example, they'd constantly move where the meetings are within the forest.
Right.
So you would never have a ceremony
at the same place. Is there a whole connection though with stairs and cults that you know of?
Well, I mean, aren't stairs like an altar? You know what I'm saying? Like, there is, like, if you think about...
Well, and some people do use, like, steps like that as an altar.
Were you raised Catholic?
Yes.
Have you ever been to a Catholic church, where the altar was not on stairs?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always stairs.
Well, that's
because
they got stage, isn't it?
Right, like, there's a stage to it. And as a matter of fact, some of the churches that I went to, so some of the churches, like, in and around Boston, there's stairs to go up to the pulpit.
Yeah.
Like, from the altar, the priest then goes upstairs and does the sermon.
Yeah, they like stairs.
And does the homily and everything from stairs. Say that again?
They like stairs.
They like their stairs. So if we're talking about a cult, it might be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be the opposite? Isn't a cult the opposite of church?
Well, maybe that's why these stairs are missing and, like, disappear and stuff like that.
Or don't attach to anything?
Or don't attach to anything. I don't know. Maybe. I think they still take a lot of their rituals and a lot of the things that they do. But they often, like you said, they often distort it somehow. Yeah. So it's an upside down cross, or it's a thing like that. So I want to go to one. Do you want to go to one?
I want to go to one.
Do you want to go to one?
Yeah.
Do you know of any nearby that we can go to? Other than the Devil's Tree, which you've never been to, so we should go there at some point.
No stairs? Or in
Florida? I found
one in
if we're planning
New Hampshire?
If we're planning, there are very few places in this world, other than maybe Central Florida, that are as creepy as Keene, New Hampshire.
New England.
Have you ever been to Keene?
I have. I went there last summer.
Did you really?
Uh-huh.
Did you drink the water?
No.
It used to be a joke. So for those who don't know, because I know I always present myself as being like the Massachusetts Boston guy. I lived in New Hampshire for years. And I went to high school in New Hampshire as well, in Manchester, New Hampshire. And the joke was, because we used to play football, we used to go to Keene. You don't drink the water in Keene. We would bring twice as much water to an away game in Keene, so that we didn't drink the water.
The fresh water from the mountains or something.
Well, and you know what? I had the water in Keene. It's amazing. It's like drinking fresh
I
water,
was
like
just trying to say that, so
right?
you don't get it.
But there is this idea that there was something in a state that's kind of once you get out of the southern New Hampshire, it's a creepy state.
Yeah,
And that often doesn't get its due. The White Mountains have tons of cryptid stories, tons of ghost stories, things like that. The Man in the Mountain, who's not a man anymore.
I know.
But in Cheshire County, New Hampshire, now where Keene is, I have seen Cheshire spelled 4 different ways, so that kind of adds to the allure of it.
Cheshire cat?
In Chesterfield, yep. In Chesterfield, now Cheshire County, Chesterfield or West Chesterfield. Once again, I've seen it at. There's something called the Madame Sherry Castle.
Oh.
Are you like looking through the stuff? Like I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you about it.
Yeah. Do you want me to read it?
Just this bottom part, eventually.
Okay.
Okay. So there's this Madame Sherry Castle, which for the most part has been destroyed, except for these magnificent stairs to nowhere in the middle of the forest. It is in Madame Sherry Forest near Spofford Lake. It's 513 acres in the middle of New Hampshire. It's run by the Society of Protection of New Hampshire Forests, which is the worst sounding thing of all time. I try to make an acronym of it.
They're pretty big, though.
Are they really?
Yeah, like
is that like a big society?
They were trying to preserve the Man in the Mountain.
That's the same. That's the same organization.
I think so.
Oh wow. Okay, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to make fun of New
yeah.
Hampshire or the Society of. So
they care about their stuff.
So this castle was built. We can live free for our shit. It's named after. It was built by this woman named Madame, and that's going to be important later. Madame Antonia Sherry, who was from France. She actually was born Antoinette Bremier in France in 1878, and she immigrated here to the United States. She gets here 1911. She marries Andre Rieu, and they immediately hit it off, and they become one of the hottest fashion designers in New York City, right? But they're not like runway fashion designers. They become the #1 duo. It's called the House of Sherry, right? They are these huge Broadway designers, like costume designers for Broadway. Like they were the hottest thing. Now, Andre, wicked sketchy. Like, maybe he was in the mafia or had organized crime. Maybe he had, like, other weird things going on. But he was a silent movie star who kind of, like, had his rise and had his fall. He opened this shop with her. And they are, like, living the life, living the wild life. They're in New York City. Like, they're going crazy. Have the parties. This is the 1920s, so we're talking, like, the roaring 20s in New York. Broadway, the dude's a movie star. She's a fashion designer. They're living in the fast lane. She actually has a vaudeville show where she acts and she dances and she sings. So like they were really popular. In 1927, Andre dies. You weren't sad. Well, you were supposed to like react.
Possibly from toxicity of bootlegged alcohol or syphilis.
So whatever happened to him, he either died of syphilis.
He had a fun life.
Right? I mean, if you're gonna die from sex or from drinking, right?
Yeah.
Or what that means, the toxicity of bootlegging is like essentially they were fermenting this stuff for bootlegging during Prohibition. And it was bad. It was it was actually turned into poison and killed him because he drank too much. Around this time, she had already started to become friends with this guy named Jack Henderson, who's another silent movie actor. Maybe there was romance between the two. Maybe they were a couple. Maybe she was.
Charlie Chaplin?
Were they friends with Charlie Chaplin? Was
Maybe.
it on that? Oh.
No, it's not on there.
I know, but you held it like this, like, hey, do you think potentially in 1925 they became friends with Charlie? So you said it as if they was on there, and I'm like,
no, that's the only movie actor I know.
I don't remember reading that. Well, now you know 2 more. You know Andre Rieu and you know Jack Henderson. She wasn't an actress.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing about Jack is he was part of this new like jet-setting crowd who would go off to party in New Hampshire, right? So they would get out of New York, they would get out of LA, they would go to New Hampshire to these small places in New Hampshire, and they would essentially take over the town, and they would turn it into these party places. So in 1923, kind of like at his encouraging, she purchases a farmhouse on Rattlesnake Mountain. And after she purchases the house, she starts to buy up all this land all around it. And her intent is she wants to build a castle, right?
Yeah, this is while she's driving around naked. In
wait, you're going too fast. You're going too fast. We're getting to the naked part. So she starts building this castle on all this land. You can actually hear like a really good version of this if you go to New England Legends. So I know you listen to New England Legends more than you listen to our own show. That's Jeff Belanger's podcast. Yeah. Oh, you were going yes, right? Oh, I thought you were going no. I don't.
I do listen to it.
Okay.
It's not more than ours. Ours
if you go to New England, if you go to New England Legends, there's actually a really good episode about this, and it's also one of their calendars that they made actually has this as a month. So go check that out. It reminded me of the Winchester House. Do you know the story about the Winchester House?
Yeah, I went there.
In
Winchester Mansion in California?
Yeah, you went there?
San Jose?
You never told me that.
Yeah.
All right, we are going to have a conversation about that afterwards. In that, she drove the people.
It did remind me of that.
As you were reading it?
Yeah.
She drove them crazy. She was like, do this, change this, I don't like this, extend this. And people would just constantly quit. And there was a rumor that she intentionally did that so that no one would stay long enough to learn everything that was going on.
Are you talking about Winchester or Madame Sherry?
Madame Sherry.
Okay.
We do it. Which also reminded me of the what's his name? H.H. Holmes, right? H.H. Holmes would kill or like not pay people so they wouldn't finish so that no one would know exactly everything that was going on in this murder hotel. I don't think she was murdering people, but I do think that like maybe there was something else going on. Like she had why build in this one place? I always think of that when some paranormal supernatural stuff happens, are people drawn to a location, right? She was a crazy woman, right? Mm-hmm. So after the house was finished, but even while it was being completed, she lived in this like humble farmhouse off to the side. What would she do?
She would be, what is this, a car?
Yes, a Packard is a car, yeah.
She'd be chauffeured around in her cream-colored Packard with nothing on but a fur coat accompanied by her pet monkey.
So she would literally drive around this small town New Hampshire in this big old cream-colored Packard wearing just a fur, right? Naked underneath with her pet monkey, dude. She is like part...
friends with these people.
She's part stripper, part Michael Jackson with the monkey hanging out with her, driving around... Or she would also wear these completely crazy costumes that were old Broadway set pieces, like these old designs that she had designed for a play, and she'd be going around this small town in New Hampshire wearing those kind of clothes too, right? And of course, the other rumor that was, it was not just an honorary title, that the madam was because people felt that this castle potentially was also a brothel.
Right.
So she was actually a real madam. She was a woman of the night selling her wares to the fine people that were escaping New York City to it.
Or she was a swinger. That was the other.
I have that right here. But it says it right here. Wait. It's right here. What does that say?
Huge parties, orgies.
Hey, can you tell us what when the chateau was finished, what it was like?
Me?
Yeah.
Read?
That's where it says read, yeah.
Okay. In spite of her detailed focus and her offbeat way, they managed to finish the entire castle in the woods upon the completion of one of the visitors. As Lynn Borowski said, it was a theatrical French chateau of New Hampshire stone, wreathed in Roman arches and crowned with a chalet roof. An imposing stone staircase, grand enough for Folly's stage set. What's Folly's stage set?
Folly's, I think it was, they had a whole thing that was called, Follies mean, performance.
Okay.
But she also was in something, her vaudeville act was called Something Follies.
Okay.
So, but it was pretty much it means a show or something like that.
Something funny happens.
Not necessarily, but yeah. Often I would say the connotation of Follies is that it's funny, but not always. So, for example, if you watch Bridgewater State Follies, not so funny.
Okay.
I'll explain later what that is.
It had stone flower boxes with red and white flowers, earning the name Primrose Path.
I thought of you as soon as I read that.
I like
the Primrose
that.
Path. I'm like, that's a Deanna line right there.
I like that. The main stairs cut into the rock ledge, leading to a massive red front door. That must have been like, whoa, because it's red.
Isn't there some swinger thing that a red door means something?
Pineapple on
I know
the
that.
door.
Everyone knows the pineapple, but isn't there
Red
also some
door.
red door sex thing?
Maybe. Oh, like the red room? Maybe.
That's the green room, I thought.
No, the red room is like the sex dungeon.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. You don't know. Adding to
I was thinking behind the green door. That's what I was thinking. The
Okay.
porno behind the green door.
Oh, no. Was that from the 70s?
Yeah.
Adding to the atmosphere, there was even supposed to be a tree growing through the center of the house and out of the roof.
So that's really cool. So it was almost like this 1920s, 1930s version of the Ewok village. Right? Like
Is it still there?
Massive. You have this massive. You have this massive chateau, which is a castle, and then in the middle of it, there's a huge tree growing, and the whole thing is kind of set up by these gigantic stairs. No,
Obviously.
syphilis and whatever. Like, she had a lot of money. Obviously, she was not the best madam because the money started to dry up. Not only did the money start to dry up, but like things started to happen that made it seem as if maybe this eccentric was more like insane and senile, like that things were like happening. And so she was actually committed to a home. She was committed to this place in Vermont to spend out her days. She dies in 1965, not necessarily penniless, but she had already signed away the chateau. But it didn't really matter because 20 years before that, in 1962, it burned down. Everything but the stairs. Right? It had been the subject of vandalism like ever since she had been shipped off. The fire happens. The stairs remain. And the stairs remain to this day. So if you're walking through these woods, you'll come upon just this. And they advertise it, so it's not like it's like a mystery. Like, people know about it. It's a thing. Although, I live not too far.
And you didn't know about
I
it.
had never heard about these stairs before.
Yeah.
Have you? I know you're more of a Massachusetts person. Like, you didn't spend much time in New Hampshire, but you were in Keene last week, you said, or whatever.
Yeah, I was.
Had you been like, hey, were you at the local Keene dinery? And they were like, hey, you know about these stairs? Like,
No. Are they near the White Mountains?
Keene? I don't think Keene is like, I think Keene's more west than north, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm pretty sure, I'm
I
thinking,
have to look at them.
yeah, I'm thinking like you would go this way. And of course, Keene State is like where the best teachers in the world are made, they say, and stuff like that.
I went to Plymouth State.
I'm not going to say anything. 'Cause
Down the road from
I have a few people from Plymouth State that I know listen to the show, so I'm not going to say anything about Plymouth State. The one college that offered me a football scholarship, just so you know.
I went
These
to
are
9
not
colleges.
just, I know you did, so pretty much any college you said, you'd be Deanna went, I went there. It's not just a creepy thing. Like, there is a lot of ghostly legends and ghostly activity that is associated with this place. It's said that you often see her, you see this ghostly figure, this kind of shady figure. Not shady as in like it looks like it's like just like no structure to it, climbing up the stairs. And people have even said they've seen this figure walk the stairs and then turn around and make this like grand gesture as if she's like greeting her guests.
Okay.
People hear music in that section of the forest all the time. Like violins being played, they hear the clinking of glasses, they hear like the clatter as if there's still a party going on.
Okay.
Right? There's a sign saying not to climb it. In recent years, like parts of it have somewhat collapsed. They've said they have no intention, the foundation said they have no intention of like supporting the structure. Like they don't feel it's historic enough. Like you were saying,
they don't want to tear it down.
They don't want it. They won't tear it down, but they're also like, we're not putting money. We're not investing money in this.
Well, they don't want to support it so people can come.
So
climb on
right,
it.
because then it's like a hazard, right? But people do climb on it,
Yeah.
and what they say is when they get to the top, or when they start climbing, they start to feel really hot, as if their skin is burning. And the higher they go up on the stairs, the hotter they get, until it almost becomes like they can't climb anymore. They can't stand the heat, and they come back down. There's this one story that I read where this woman, she considers herself an empath. You ever notice everyone considers themselves an empath lately?
You always
consider herself an empath.
Empaths are attracted to you.
They really are. There must be, okay. Anyway, that she was there and she like was closing her eyes and she was trying to emotionally connect with Madame, and she just felt like the urge to put her hand out like this, and then her friend was like, "What are you doing? Like, what? Don't do that! Don't!" And it's like, "What?" It's like there was actually something shimmering next to you that you were like, and you put your hand out as if you were touching it, like. People obviously get orbs all the time when they take camera. If you get an orb when you're taking a picture of something in the woods, please don't send it to me. Like, there are so many explanations for why you would get...
So over orbs.
Right, but I mean, and even in the whole orbs, not orbs, if you see something floating with your naked eye, you come talk to me. If you see, like, there was a rainstorm in New Hampshire, and then I got in the woods, and I got this stuff, like... but here's another weird thing. Flirtatious breathing on the neck. As if someone's just kind of like,
oh, okay.
How you doing? You heard about the swinging orgies earlier on, yeah? Right? And the feeling of being drunk. So much like in Ormond Park, Ormond Beach, people go to the site and it's almost as if they've been flung into this party environment. They're hearing music. They sometimes feel drunk. They're being flirted with. They're being touched. Now, the Foundation is a different story. In the Foundation, which I guess goes down too, so you can go to the Foundation and go down a little bit. It gets freezing cold. Like, people notice there's a crazy drop in temperature. They start to kind of hear these like soft moans.
So wait, the Foundation
they get the feeling
connected? Yeah,
it's like because they're the only things that are left. So I would imagine it goes stairs, and they lead into the Foundation.
Okay.
Everything says avoid the Foundation. The Foundation gives people the willies. They feel there's a sense of darkness there, but everywhere else, especially on the stairs, there's like a party feel. Like, people feel as if she is that Madame Sherry is like enjoying this. Like, she loves this idea of that the party's still going on. Yeah, like that she's still the hostess and people are still coming. And people are still enjoying.
Stairs.
Right, come on in. Willkommen, buenavou. Keen. Okay, so this sounds like a place that we should go.
Yes.
Right? Like, I feel not only is it like, okay, I have a reason to go to New England, see my family, stuff like that. It's some place that you can go into, but it seems also someplace like that you can trip, right? Like, you can go there and you can play music from the 20s. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could try to recreate a prom.
We can wear costumes.
I was gonna say we could have an orgy, but
I'll wear a fur coat.
Wear nothing but a fur coat. I always think I would wear, like, you ever see the Brady Bunch episode where they're all the flappers, are all the people from the 20s, and he's got the fur coat on with the hat. But this seems like something that would be not dangerous, but also like, oh wow, can we trigger a party by having a party? Not necessarily the orgy part, but like, could we go there and play music from the 20s? Could we get something to communicate with us by recreating this thing?
Right.
And then when we get there, of course, the question would be, would you climb the stairs?
Yeah.
You would climb the stairs.
Well,
even
I want to look at them, but probably. Would you? I know you wouldn't. You don't like climbing not haunted stairs. Not haunted stairs.
Well, the weird thing is that, like, I like my haunted stairs. Like, we do have several things of haunted stairs in Trivia and Legends, but they're all stairs that are attached to the next floor of something.
No.
Stairs that go
upstairs, you're like, oh my goodness. Ah.
That's just me out of breath. That's not me.
No, you act scared of stairs.
I'm not scared of stairs.
Okay, when we went to Jacksonville, the fort, going up those stairs.
Those stairs
in the fort.
Okay, like, yeah, that was scary. They were like
stairs.
I could have died.
And the stairs.
I could have died.
Inn that we went to.
I could have died there too.
Like
I could have died. Yes.
Point taken. You don't like stairs.
I'm scared of stairs.
Yes.
That's why this is like one of those things where it's like, I feel like I have a connection to that like scary, creepy motif of like stairs are haunted, or that they hold something that you're going from one place to another.
When I bought my house, I wanted it to have a second floor because I love stairs.
Do you think there's something in my childhood with stairs?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like they always talk about like
I
your
do.
fears are based on.
But why did I want stairs? I said I really
You had
want
a good
with
experience.
stairs.
You had a good experience
No,
with stairs.
I didn't
and
have
didn't.
stairs when I was. A
That's
kid.
why you wanted them. Maybe.
But maybe I think
I always
stairs
had.
is like.
I always had stairs.
I never did. So I'm like, I want a house with, and I live in Florida. You know how many houses have stairs?
Exactly. Like,
Not
do you
that
know how many do you know how many houses in California have basements?
Florida.
That was a reference she didn't understand. If you understood that reference, you can get in contact with us on our social media. Tell us what it is, and maybe you can get a free copy
Ooh, maybe we'll be
of
talking about basements
Haunted
next
Haunted Florida Love Stories, which is on sale now. Pick it up before the new book comes out. But if you can tell me what that line is from,
Don't
I'll
go
actually
down
give
in the
you.
basement.
No, the
Don't
line
go down
is
in the basement.
the line is there aren't a lot of houses in California with basements. That's the line. If you can tell me what movie that comes from, I will send you a free copy of Haunted Florida Love Stories. Just get in contact with us. I'm transitioning to the end. Stop interrupting. You can contact us. You got it now? Contact us on any of our social media, including on Facebook at facebook.com/trippingonlegends. You can contact us on Twitter at Spooky Balzano, on Instagram at Spooky Tripping, or of course you can just send an email at spookytripping@gmail.com. Go to www.trippingonlegends.com. You can go to wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe. Give us the best rating. We deserve something for all the hard work that we've put in tonight. You can't necessarily contact us through it, but you can definitely download the show, subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, tell everybody how much you love the show. Follow us on TikTok at Tripping on Legends. Maybe I can actually do the promo there and kind of hint at what the answer to that question might be. There's tons of ways of getting in contact with us, and now if you live in the state of Florida, there are tons of ways over the next few months that you can see us live in person, doing stuff and hawking our shit. So please get in contact with us. Answer the trivia question if you can. And I'm Christopher Balzano.
And I'm Deanna Mulhern.
Wait a minute, stop.
Pause.
I totally told my father that I would give him a shout out for his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
I would also like to
Leo!
say happy birthday to my father, Leo Balzano, who is celebrating, what do you say, 78th birthday today.
Wow, Leo,
So,
good job.
I am not named after him except for my last name, because my name is Christopher Balzano.
And I'm Deanna Mulhern.
And here's hoping that all of your trips
are legendary.
are legendary. We kind of missed that at that time.
You always